All right, Gary, I'm working with your Stryker here. Sorry about the delay. We're going to get the new power plug in for you. I mean, it's not new, but I took it out of a parts radio that I had, so it's the same plug. It'll fit right in there, but yeah, that's a no connect in the middle, but I see what you mean, how it's all pushed in, so just got to be careful with that when you're putting power plugs in these, not to push too hard. If it's not going in normal, then I would try to, even if this isn't a bracket, take it out, hook it back up, make sure it's in the right way, because you don't want to risk damaging the radio or something hooking it up backwards, but shouldn't be a big deal to put this back in with the new plug. So let me do that. And then I didn't see any notes, so I'm gonna have to try to find our email and see what's going on with the radio. I'm not sure if I sold this to you or if you got it somewhere else, but I'll check it out and see what's going on with it. All right, so we got the new one in there for you. It's nice and sound. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and tight on the back, so just like it was before. And let me get this guy on. Here it is anyways, the one that you sent. Let me get this guy on for you, or powered on, and see what's going on with it. Yeah, so when you're plugging this in, it pretty much just goes in and that's it. Like, you can't really push it harder. When it's in kind of thing. I mean, it's not coming out, but I did find that when I first put this in here, it almost feels like it's not in all the way, and I think that could have been maybe what you were doing, and you were pushing it harder in. It's in, and I mean, I'm pulling on this thing without pulling the whole radio off the table with it, but it's not coming out. It's got some bite in there. When you put that in there, it kind of bites on there, so it's definitely not coming out. I mean, you have to pull it out forcefully, and I would always pull it right from here, never from the cord. Grab on here and kind of pull it out, so that way it doesn't, you don't break the pins again or something. But look, I had a couple parts radios here that used the same plug, so that can go in the trash. But that's all I did, is switch that out for you. So now I'm going to test it and see how it's looking. Really quick, I was going to pull the top cover off. I just want to see if I'll be able to tell if I sold this to you on how it's converted. Alright, so I believe that I did. So that's cool that it's back. I'm going to check it out and see how it's looking. I'm going to try not to mess with a lot of your settings. Some of them I might have to, probably not though, because I can go into the service. So let me just see how it's working here. Alright, let me get my computer, and I'll get into the service portion here in a second. So I want to see how she's looking. If there's anything I can do to help you out, I will while it's here. There's the service. Alright. Let me grab a microphone. Well, it's right on the money on frequency, so that's a good thing. Let's just go through and take a look at some stuff. This is the FM power high. It's a little bit better. This is FM low. That's good. I'm going to take a look at the FM modulation and see how that's sitting on this radio. That may have not been something I did before. So let's see. FM, let me get this set up here. My FM setting. I'll wait for that to kick on, and then we'll modulate. It's not bad. It's 3.73, so I would like it just a little bit more. I like to go about 4.1. So let's see if we can do that. I go 4.1 just because if the radio, falls a little bit in tolerances, that 4.1, the 0.1 part of it's kind of like, well, just gives it a little bit of leeway, We'll set up AM now really quick. First we'll check the power. I want 1 and 8. These are still really nice, fun radios to use. I still really like them. I don't use mine a whole lot, only because it's stored away. That's good. We were really close anyways. Just a little bit too much on that. That's good too. I think I have the black knobs on mine. When I was carrying those, they were the DX5000 Plus knobs, the KPO, and I think they looked outstanding on the Stryker. But there were some guys that didn't like it because when you had this knob on, it didn't line up with the mode. But it never bothered me because cosmetically it looks so much better with the black knobs. Like the indicator didn't line up. But if you know these radios, when you switch modes, it shows it down here what mode it's in. So it really isn't necessary. At least it wasn't for me. And I love those black knobs on mine. I just think they look outstanding. So aside from that one little inconvenience, but it is what it is, I guess. So low power modulation is a little lower than I'd like to see. So we can fix that up. It looks good over here, but it can go a little bit more depth, some more modulation percentage, so we'll bring that up to like 95. Yeah, that kind of lets things unleash a little bit more, but still clean. Yeah, these are the really, really good audio radios here, so without any stupid mods or anything like that, where I'm putting different modulation regulators and stuff like that. It's not needed. I'm not doing anything to the finals. I'm not volting them or making them saturate and all that stuff. So that's what you got. I mean, it's huge modulation. As you can see, it sets my meter off because in the beginning, before the limiter hits it, it really ramps up and goes way beyond, and that's what sets this off. It's a level of distortion. That's why these radios do such a low dead key and high swing, because there's always a little bit of distortion with your voice audio or with the tone when we first ramp up, or when the guy grabs the mic and he just yells audio and all that on his tune-up video and stuff. It really that's the difference. So, but when the limiter settles in, it's about 95%. That's where I set it, and that's a good level. So, you can see it there. So, and it's going with the test tone. 1 watt swings about 4 on average. So on PEP, it's almost 8. So it's a lot. And with voice, it's going to go way above that, So we already know that. Kind of expect that already. High power. Kind of curious to see where this one's going to fall in. I'm assuming it's going to be much higher. We'll take a look here. Now, don't expect this kind of modulation on AM out of the other one that you sent. I really don't like working, if it's that Euro one, which I think it is. Man, I don't really like working with that one. I had one here, and although I was able to get it about as good as I could, I ended up selling it to a good customer of mine. I'm wondering if that's maybe you, or if you sourced this one yourself from overseas. You may have sourced it yourself from overseas, because I don't think I sold it to you. It's about 89%. So we can do just a little bit more here too. That radio is not an AM radio. And when it's converted to do like 12 and 10 meters and all that, the dead carrier increases, and it's actually way too high for AM. And I don't like running it like that on AM. Personally, if that was my radio, I would not have it converted. So I would just run it the way it came and have FM and echo and all that. It's a McKinley, that's what we're talking about, Europe. So that's your modulation waveform here on high power. 8 watt dead key, it swings on average almost 20, and PEP it's almost 40, so that's good. Sideband, we'll see how that's going to look here. Now, these aren't necessarily one of the cleanest on sideband, but they, you know, they sound good and there's no problem with it. They're just a little untamed, I guess. But I would use mine like this. You know, I adjust it to about as good as I can get it, and then that's it. So this one still looks really good, so you can tell that I did this one. I'm just curious to see, because it's very doubtful that I had this machine when I did your radio, but it's good to see that it still looks really good. So I'm pretty consistent on what I do with my work, even if the equipment has changed throughout time. I think I'm pretty consistent with was really close to what I do now, and I would say that using this equipment is definitely an upgrade versus what I used to use. So, you know, there's always going to be a little bit of differences, I guess. I missed the mark just a little bit on AM mod, but doubtful that what I did is going to make really much of a difference. So there's that. That's good. So we'll see. I think it's going to be what, I'm just guessing, between 16 and 20. 16. So there you go. So let's see if I can do anything more with that. I don't want to bring it up too much, because then we take top end away. There's 18. 19. Yeah, 19 is too much on this one. So I'm going to say 18 is pretty good. It's definitely an improvement. A little less distortion product all the way around. It may do a little less power, but not by much. So it looks really nice though. So alright, let's see when I put a mic on it. We'll just look at the power really quick here. I can test the power still with a mic in this mode. I'm just using one of these. So this is our sideband. So yeah, it's still doing the 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, check, check. Yeah, it's still doing good. So just cleaned it up a little bit more for you, so that's good. Well, let me put it on the air and see how it's working. I guess it's about time to do that. Well, that probably looks familiar. Those annoying guys are out there playing their games again, so it's hard to take this stuff serious when you got people like that doing that kind of stuff, but I can hear Europe coming in too. So, I think you got some Roger beeps or something on. CQ 269 Michigan. CQ.
Yeah, was that 929 calling me? 929 in Michigan, 148. Operator 4 Northwest London, waving.
How about you 148? It's 269 Michigan. QSL. He might not hear me. I haven't been on the radio today, so this is the first time. So I'm going off the Anderson power pole off my RS70M. It's saying I'm at 13.8. So, I mean, the little bit of voltage draw that this radio's showing, let's just go here where there's probably nobody. So, test 1, 2, test 1, 2, test 1, 2. I mean, I know people say that you should like get upgraded power cords and all this stuff, but I don't believe in that with any of these kind of radios. We're never going to make enough difference to, how can I say this so that it's easily understood? We're not going to do anything on the back of this radio by putting a fatter cable or anything to make a noticeable difference. It's just like what I would say to people if you're running a radio like this, which is about 60 watts or something, give or take PEP. If we were to hook up like an amplifier that's doing 120, 150, it's not enough to make a difference. Yes, it's doing more power, but at the expense of money you've spent, time it took to wire in that additional amp, and then everything else involved in it, you're still not making enough difference on the guy that's listening to you to really justify doing it. So I would say in this situation, the same thing with the power cord, you know, or replacing the power jack in the back with something else. Yeah, if you like to do that stuff and it's fun, then you know, no problem. But if you're really looking and thinking that's going to give you all this extra performance, I just think that it's not going to. You know, and that's just me being me. I don't like to do things that are just basically just wasting my time, and you know, it's more for the person selling you the cord to make the money, and you know, they're giving you this idea in your mind that yeah, it sounds good, everything sounds good in theory, but does it really make a difference? I got another LP100 over here, so we can take a quick peek at that. This LP100's hooked up. And we're going outside to the antenna, so we can see we're still doing 60 watts PEP, give or take, you know, and this is clean setup here for this radio. So again, here's your Roger beat going off or something. So for me to say that, you know, you should get an 8 gauge power wire going into this thing and all that, I mean, we're doing what the radio is supposed to do already with just the normal. Everybody knows what these are. So that's where I'm going to leave that. I mean, it doesn't make enough difference. Like, you're not going to do 80, 100 watts out of these. Even if you are, even if somebody hot rods the inside of it for you and does all this stuff to get you to spend more money, at the end of the day, it's not going to make a difference. You're better off running a clean setup with good, clear audio and the proper power coming out of this thing. And then if you do want to run an amplifier, get yourself, you know, something with some quality to it, you know, like that has some filtering built into it. That's a real, like, linear style amplifier, you know. And a lot of times we forget that word linear means something in a power amplifier. And I think a lot of guys don't realize sometimes what they're buying. And, you know, you're in some cases, you're better off just running something like this, which is set up the right way, versus hooking something else up that's going to give you all this extra power, but you don't really end up doing much more with all that power, because a lot of times you don't know that the power is going over here and it's going over there and it's coming back down the outside of your cable as common mode current, because the amp is sending so many different frequencies out at one time, and the antenna can't radiate that because it's designed, or it's set to a certain frequency, and you know, the way it was made, the characteristics of the frequency, it knows how to radiate, but all that other stuff it doesn't know how to radiate, so it all gets jumbled up at the feed point, and then the inside of the cable is constantly sending information to the antenna, so there's really no way for it to come back there. So where does it come back? It comes back down the outside of your cable, and that's where you start to get all that RFI in your shack, in your car, wherever. So there's just a lot more that you can do that's bad by getting one of these poor quality amplifiers and stuff like that. And I'm not, like I said, I don't name names, I don't call people or do anything like that. I'm just saying, for my experience, having an amplifier that's of a lesser quality isn't really worth it in a lot of ways. But you know, you guys can take whatever you want from what I say. You know, if you're having fun out there, I guess that's all that matters. But Gary, I think it was Gary, We got this all set, so we can just flip it to AM really quick and just take a quick peek at what it's doing on the other meter again. So let's just kind of slide that over so we're not so your Roger beeps are going off. So there's about 1 2 3 1 2 3. So it does again a little bit more on AM. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Check check check. Hello radio. Hello radio. But it's really still really good. Here's the RF power all the way down on it. So about that 1 watt mark. And that's why I'm saying, like, how it's swinging like that. I think a lot of guys like that, but there's a lot to be said in that that's not necessarily desired. And I don't want to go into all that right now, but personally, I prefer that not to do that in that regard. But it is what it is. A lot of guys like it, and that's why this radio still has that. And probably these kind of radios will always have that option because it's more popular in America. Because it drives the living snot out of these poor quality amplifiers and stuff, and that's what creates even more distortion and more harmonics coming out of the amp that the antenna can't radiate. More common mode current coming down the cable. AM doesn't generally have as many problems with that, but it still can. If you're getting bit by your mic, depending on what mic you use, if it has some type of metal material to it and you're talking and all of a sudden you're, ouch! You get hit in the face, get sparked in the face. That's common mode coming down your cable, and it's finding a path to ground through the mic cord to you. A lot of times I see these guys with these big ferrites on the front of their mic, and that's probably because they have a ton of common mode coming in, and it's causing problems with RFI and all kinds of other problems. And they think that putting that ferrite there, and it may help a little bit, but you got to start with the source, and a lot of times the source is that poor quality amp that's creating a lot of issues. But anyways, this one's done, so I'm going to pull the other one up here on the desk and see what we got going on with that one. So hopefully this will work better for you. It wasn't working too bad when it came in, but I was glad to help improve it a little bit. See if I can pop this out. So yeah, it's got a little bite to it, I won't lie, you know. Let's get that on there so we just kind of pop her out. It's a little more tricky. But yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, you really need to grab onto this. It really catches a hold of it in there, and it does, you know. So the same thing applies when you push it in there. It's in there. So even though it doesn't feel like it's in there and you may want to push it in more, that's where I think you run into problems with those pins popping through. Obviously with the phone in one hand, I'm not able to, you know, brace the radio as I pull it out. So there you have it. I mean, it's good to go though. The pins are in there and stuff, so no big deal. Alright, here's your other radio. I have a feeling this is going to say Knights on the side of it, or the back of it. I mean, on the heat sink. Oh, yeah, I forgot they have that little mic spot there. Let me get that out here. I don't really need the mic. Let me get this out really quick. I'll be right back. Yeah, it's got Knights on it. I bought one of these from them too. I don't think I sold you mine. So yeah, it's got the pin pushed in. This is like a standard style plug. Let me see if I can find another one. I'll switch it for you. I probably got another radio around here I can take one off of. Yeah, let me pop it open and have a look. All right, well, here's a look inside our McKinley. The Europe version. Our McKinley 2 that we got briefly in America, I believe what they did is they used these circuit boards after they discontinued it in Europe, and they used what was left and retrofitted it to US standards. That's what I believe they did. I believe if you cut that wire and move that jumper, that's what gave you the export. Now I wonder if there was a way on this to get the export but not get the high power, because I don't like the high power on these. It's the single final. I think it does too much power, and I really don't want to do a whole lot to this because I think that they're prone to failure if they're turned up too much. And I have no clue where it's at right now or anything like that. But, you know, I've had very little experience with these. I did have one that I bought new from a different vendor way back when these first came out. It failed 1 week into me owning it. It was turned up too high. I believe by the person that sold it to me from Europe, it was not nights. I was able to send it back, and then I bought a CRT 9900 V4 from him, and I was much happier with that radio. But with that being said, I did buy another one from Knights, and it did work well. The one complaint I had about the radio was that it did not stay on frequency too well on sideband. And that was even after when I started doing my business, I aligned it with some of my equipment I used to have, and even then it just, I don't know, I was too picky. I found that the McKinley 2 that I got, it was a demo from President. They asked me to do a video, and I did do a video, but they asked me not to post it because they didn't really care for some of the comparisons I was making on the radio, which I respect their opinion, you know, and they let me keep the radio. I still like the McKinley 2 a lot. I still like the regular McKinley USA. These are one of the radios that are kind of forgotten about now. When the George 2 came out, it kind of clobbered this radio and I guess kind of put it in non-existence kind of way. So I do love the George 2. I also have one of those. I love the George FCC better than I like the McKinley FCC, if that's something, you know. So there are some good things about this radio, and you know, my very limited experience with it is that if you're not careful and you turn up the power too much on this, it will go bye-bye on you, and it's usually up in this area. One of these components goes awry and lets some nasty smoke out. So it's not a good thing when that happens, and yeah, I don't really like these radios a whole lot when they've been converted. They do too much power. That's the stance I'm taking. So it's got the jumper pin and the wire. I don't remember if the wire is only for power or if the jumper pin is for conversion. I think the wire is for power, and I think the jumper pin's for conversion. And it's not, you know, one of those things where you would either have to strip that and resolder it and heat shrink it, or you could do it on the back side of the board, the solder side, just run like a 0 ohm or something and reconnect it. But anyhow, you got your middle pin messed up here, so I don't know if I have a plug like this or not. So in this case, if I don't, I wonder if some hot glue, looks like they had hot glue on it before. The radio doesn't need that pin for anything. It's useless on this plug. You have your ground, you have your hot, and that's it. So you don't necessarily need it. I'm going to look through some other junk radios I have and see if I can find a plug that might work, but I don't want to disassemble all this if I don't. So it looks like it will work, like it's the same plug pretty much. So I can pull this one out of this old junk radio here, parts radio, and put it in this radio, and hopefully we'll have a new plug. So let me get going on that, and we'll come back after it's done, and then I'll power it on, and then we'll take a look at what it's doing. And I don't want to, I mean, these are very time consuming, and I don't want to mess a whole lot with it. If it does have that high power mod. So as long as it's working, I think I'm just going to call it what it is, because I don't want to be involved in that if something were to happen to it because of it being in high power mode. I don't like the high power mode on this, and with that being said, I'm going to be very cautious when I test it.